Jim Sullivan of Dayton, Ohio, was one of the many engineers who helped to design and perfect the P-51. Sullivan worked for United Aviation Products, a small subcontractor that had been called upon to design and build two very critical components of the P-51, its oil temperature regulator and its radiator. As Sullivan and his fellow engineers discovered, the Mustang's cooling system was an especially difficult problem.
Well, we were approached by the engineers from the Air Force and the North American to develop a radiator for aircraft. I don't think it was called 51 at the time, but it was X something. I think it was X-73. Up to this time, all the oil coolers that we developed were circular, but this particular cooler was to be a elliptical cooler, which he had never designed before. The original design, as I remember, was to have the 51 get right down on the ground with the troops. So when we examined the aircraft, we found out that due to that elliptical cooler and this square radiator behind it, built right underneath the plane, when the plane strafed any kind of ground fire, or even picking up rocks and so forth down that low, would penetrate the tube and fin radiator and cooler, and the fluid would disappear, would run out, and the plane would, within 90 seconds, I think, would hit the ground. So once we found out what the problem was, we designed the coolant into I think 6 or 7 equal parts, where if you shut out one part, we had a little spring valve would come down and just shut that part off, and the other 6 would work. In the first part of the war, the English were sort of overrun, and their pilots would fly almost 24 hours a day, and they had a habit of leaving their planes out at night, and it would get cool, and the pilots would get the alert, and they would jump in their plane, put the pressure to the oil cooler, and due to the fact that the center of the oil cooler was congealed, it was very difficult to get the thing started. In fact, it would end up blowing out the oil cooler. So I figured out a deal where we'd come in, instead of coming straight down, we would come in by the side and go, instead of going up and down like the cooler did, we would come around and in the middle, instead of coming around. And that way we'd hit the congealed oil right in the middle and warmed it up.